Welcome to another episode of Cricketing Journeys. To go from a small country town in Australia to an Ashes dressing room, to represent the Brisbane Heat in the BBL, to go and play the Champions League in India, are all things that kids dream of. And there's one person who's experienced that. That's Chris Sabburg, and he's here with us today on the Cricketing Journeys episode. So, Strobes, without further ado, welcome.
Thank you, mate. Thanks for having me. Hope everyone's well and staying safe at home.
Strobes, in the 2013 Ashes series in Australia, Australia won 5-0, and you had a role to play in that. In the first test, in fact, in Brisbane, there was something that happened, which I don't want to say anything further. I just want to show something, and then we'll have a chat.
All right.
Once you do the subfield, and I was pretty happy, obviously. What a moment from Chris Sabburg. It all happened pretty quick, I think. Ryan Harris just quickly come off. I think he had to get some socks, change the socks. I quickly ran out and I didn't know where I had to go. Sort of looked to Clarky and I'm looking around. He's pointing me down the fine leg. I was like, all right. It didn't take too long. I was only out there for an over and a bit. And I got the catch. It's in the air. He's an out. He's under it. He's gone in. There's the wicket. Mitchell Johnson. Start again for a straight out for the Brisbane. Probably the best thing, he didn't go too high, and I didn't have to think about it. So I think if he got a bit more of a top edge, I probably would have been thinking, oh geez, yeah, this is pretty important. And he's just helped it around the corner, almost catching practice for the outrider. What a great moment for Chris Sabburg. And then everyone got around, and sunnies went everywhere, and my hat went backwards.
So, Strobes, you would have explained this 10 million times, yeah? Now, You'll need to do it one more time, and I'm pretty sure you're not too bored of the story as well.
No. So it was Brisbane. I think it was about day 4, I think. Day 3 or 4 that happened. So, mate, I wasn't too worried about it. Like, I wasn't nervous or anything because I went on earlier in the day. I think Ryan or Mitch had come off for a drink or whatever, and I fielded a few balls down at fine leg, and I made sure I ripped it in as fast as I could over the top to try and get rid of some nerves and get rid of that. So I did some couple of good throws and a diving stop at mid on off Nathan Lyon. So that catch was I was pretty relaxed at the time, which I found weird because the next year I did the Kiwis. I did the same thing. I went on the field and I was so nervous the second time. I think the expectation was just like, all right, he's got to catch it because he's the subfielder that caught one. So the second time was much worse than that time. But yeah, mate, it was a good time, and like I said in that video, I'm pretty lucky it didn't go too high. So at the Gabba, they've got the shade sails on top of the stand, and it didn't. That's one clear image I've got in my head that I don't remember it going too much higher than that. And I think it was probably a good thing because it just got above it, and then so I could get it out of the seats, and because the Gabba's always got the red and the green and the maroon seats, and it's sort of a bit hard sometimes. But I got above that, which then I got a clear view of it, so then I could sort of watch it and go to where I needed to go. And mate, the rest is history. I caught the catch and probably should have made it look a bit harder, to be fair.
For those who've just joined in, so that we've got Chris Sabburg with us, affectionately known as Strobes. Played for the Brisbane Heat in the BBL, went to the Champions League in India, and the Queensland and WA representative as well. But Strobes, is coming back to the catch that you took during the Ashes 2013. You went to the final leg position, and you said Nathan Lyon from deep square leg gave you a bit of a nudge and just said, "Hey, watch out, something's coming this way."
Yeah, that's another clear image I've got, is just looking around the field and sort of gauging where you are and seeing how far. He was at deep square, probably just behind square. So we had a fair distance between us with the big corners at the Gabba. So I was sort of looking at him and just seeing, how far we had to go. If something went up, I was probably going to yell at him to catch it. But I remember him pointing over to me and going, "You're going to get a catch." and probably why the GOAT is the GOAT, that he knew something was coming. And yeah, it just happened to. Don't think it was probably not a great ball from Mitch Johnson, and probably equally not a great shot. Yeah, and it just fell my way.
Did you know that was Kevin Peterson's 100th Test match for England, which means a super sub got him caught in his 100th Test. How do you reckon he feels about that?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of like media and stuff around it with his 100th Test, and obviously being an amazing player, one of the best. So there was a bit of media around it. So I think we knew. But yeah, there was. I remember my dad saying, try and get him, try and catch him or run him out. I think he mainly said run him out because we obviously know about Gary Pratt and what he did to Ponting and that previous years in the Ashes. So he said, try and get him out. And
yep.
I don't know, it's just something that sort of happened. And I thought, something might happen if I get on the field. I've been a bit lucky like that. Things have sort of been lucky for me to fall my way.
Absolutely. And you know what? People don't realize that you were just there for a couple of overs, and to make an impact in those couple of overs, that's so hard. One, you cover distance, but secondly, you've not been doing anything. You've been taking drinks up and down, and suddenly you're in the thick of things, and to actually execute the catch, people don't realize how difficult that is. But Strobes, I look at that team, and there were 11 absolute superstar, in the dressing. You're talking the likes of Clark, Warner, Smith, Johnson, Watson. The list just goes on. How really, for the youngsters and for the people who might never ever experience something like that, what was it to be in an Ashes dressing room with such stars?
It's hard to explain. The main sort of thing I've taken out of it is Mitchell Johnson, because he was at sort of the end of his career, or starting to. And he was just unbelievable. Like, not even from what people saw on the field. Like when we'd run off, or when they'd come off for lunch or tea, he'd be spent. If he spent the first session bowling, half the session he'd be spent, but then he'd get up and he'd bowl the first one after, if that was the case. But he was just so aggressive in the rooms. He's like, oh, we're gonna swearing and being really aggressive. Like, we hate these guys, we hate England, and they did. And that's all they wanted to do. They wanted to dominate them and beat them. And he was just, he was something else. But with saying that, it was a great spot because there was so many different people that, like you're saying, there's so many different good players. But, some of them went on aggression and some of them went on, just being relaxed and those sort of ones like Watson or, those sort of guys kept to themselves and try to keep their sort of lids on themselves. So they'd have music playing all the time, and we'd always be busy. So I know it was myself, Joe Burns, and Alex Kemp, who were the three guys, because they had a Shield game on as well. And James Faulkner had to go back down to Tasmania. He was playing, so I think he did the first morning, and then I was the official one. But that, saying that, with Buff, he kept everything so relaxed and easy. And I know from my playing time with him as well, he was exactly the same. So, he just made guys so relaxed and just so they could express themselves. So,
And I was going to say, especially for people who actually don't know, it was not like you were playing for the Queensland side, or you're playing at the highest level before getting in. You were known just for your fielding, within the Queensland state, and you were considered to be one of the best fielders. And to get pulled from grade cricket to actually then come and to be a sub field in the Test match was just fantastic. But Strobes, growing up, like any Australian kid that loves cricket, playing in the backyard with your dad and mom, I understand that you used to bat right-handed, but hold the bat with the left-hand grip. You used to drive and play the pole shots, and now you can do everything right and left-handed. Is that true?
Yeah, I remember I got a photo at home of me in the backyard, and I was right-hand with a left-hand grip, so I was around the other way. So I think straight drives are sort of tough because your hands would take over, but cuts and those other sort of shots were a bit easier. But no, I think Dad had a big influence in that with, he took me up the road, and he would show me all the different spins. So he'd get a ball, and very vague memory of going up to near the water tower in Gatton, and him showing me which way the ball would spin. So I'd have to, guess and which way it might go, and he would do all that, and then obviously play in the backyard. And but yeah, then he took me to a golf pro, not sure who or where, I think in Toowoomba, and he said, "What do we do? Do we change his hands, or do we make him a left-hander?" Yeah, they changed me left-hander. So I think it's pretty lucky now. I can reverse sweep really easy, like switch hit. I can bat right-handed. I've got a bit of footage batting right-handed in the nets last year with a good mate of mine, Viv Paver, over here in Perth. So yeah, I might just be a bit lucky like that. Obviously, not everyone's like that and find it tough, but yeah.
Awesome.
Talented.
But the other piece I don't think a lot of people actually know is, so growing up, you had exposure to the likes of Dirk Tazela, who's your uncle, who's played for Queensland and Surrey, and the absolutely awesome Andy Bickle, who's your cousin, and he's obviously played for Australia and he's played first class all around the world. Were they big influences for you growing up?
Yeah, so Andy was my second cousin. He was my mum's cousin, just to clear that up. But yeah, massive influence. Like obviously watching him, I didn't see him a lot when I was younger. I didn't see Andy a lot, and just watching him play for Australia was just, he was one of my idols. And then Dickie Tasler, my uncle. So you can imagine our Christmases. So if I can just have a bit of time, my family has so much cricket in it. It's unbelievable. I've taken a few notes here just so I don't get it wrong. So Christmas cricket games in the backyard at Nan's place were just something else, because we had, my uncle had captained the over 35s Australian team in indoor, Darryl O'Sullivan, he's one of my other uncles, and played grade cricket in Ipswich. Glenn Knox, I think you've played against Glenn. I spoke to him today about it. He played 5 World Cups in the Australian Masters, so he would play as well. Dad had played A-grade cricket in Toowoomba and baseball. He went for Queensland trials back in 1972 for baseball, so he was skilled as well, but he couldn't run or anything, so he umpired. So he was a bit of an umpire. He'd sit on his chair and umpire. never gave me a wicket. And then Mum and all the aunties would play as well, and they all played. It was called Vigoro back in the day, before it was sort of ladies cricket. And then Mum told me today that her and the two other sisters played women's cricket in Ipswich back in their day. So
but that's just fascinating, Strobs. A lot of people actually don't have an appreciation, where they see people talking about, yes, we played in the backyard with with our family, but I'm talking about the non-Australian crowd that's probably having a view of this video, just to say that you're literally playing in like a backyard with like a lot of people, with sports background, and they're all so knowledgeable, and they give you so many inputs here and there. So that's probably helped you.
Yeah, mate, definitely. Just with that, there was 4 of us, that have gone on to play first grade for West. So my two, Dick Tasler's 2 sons, Andrew and Ryan, that I played with, they both play first grade and still do. And Adam O'Sullivan, my other cousin, he captained the 15 Queensland under 15s and 17s, and played Queensland 19s as well as Andrew. And then Andrew made Australian 17s squads and 19 squads. So no, there's plenty of talent there, and plenty of fire on the Christmas cricket games. That's for sure.
Awesome. And the other bit that I also wanted to say, so we'll get to the part where you obviously made it into the Brisbane Heat squad, but that wasn't the first time that you actually had exposure to Chris Lynn. You actually played some underlevel cricket with Chris Lynn. Yeah,
so I met Linny when I was 12. We played, so he was from Brisbane and I was from Gatton, so I played for Darling Downs region, he played for Met North. We both the Queensland under 12s team, so I knew Linny since we were 12, and I remember I billeted with him a few times with his mum and dad, Kim and Cole, and the rest of the family. So I knew him for a long time, and then it was a big influence why I went to Toowoomba from when I finished in Toowoomba. So I probably was going to either go to West or South, but Turnbull didn't really have a spinner, and I knew Lenny really well. So he was a big influence on my, being the same age, not really an influence, but he was an influence why I went to Turnbull.
But that's what I was going to get at. So you started your adult playing career at the University of Southern Queensland, and once you finished that, you actually moved to Brisbane, which is what a lot of people from the country actually do if they want to take their cricket forward. They come to the big metropolitans, like the Brisbanes or the the big cities. Now, was that the goal back then, like to take cricket all the way?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know when that might have kicked in. Probably early age when I was 5 or 6. I've always wanted to play for Queensland or Australia. Obviously, it hasn't happened yet, but that was always the goal. And yeah, we played in Gatton, and then when they wouldn't let me play grade cricket, I suppose, or men's cricket in Gatton, I was too young, so I went to Toowoomba and played some higher underage stuff, and then started playing for uni when I was 15 in A grade. Hopefully a few of the boys are watching from uni in Toowoomba, so bit of a shout out. But yeah, we won the comp in the last year I was there, in my last year when I was in grade 12, so when I was 17, 18. And then come down to Brizzy. So that was always the plan, to spend a few years up in Toowoomba learning, and I had some bloody good people to learn off, because I was probably more of a bowler when I sort of started there. So I had likes of Chris Webster. I did a fair few sessions with him, and he was, as you know, you played with him, he was a bloody good bowler, and still is. And then for my batting, it was one tall and one short left-hander, John Littleproud and David Ellis. So both of them have played a lot of country cricket. I think Elsie played, Australian country cricket, from memory, from a guess. But I had a lot of people to learn off, and also David Orange, who did the same thing. He come down to Brizzy a couple of years later and did fairly well down there for South. So I'm glad I did that. Glad I went to Toowoomba and not come down too early. So I learnt a lot up there, and bloody good to win a premiership last year.
But you also during your stints, Strobs, you actually went to the UK in 2010 and 2012. Now the reason why I'm asking you this question, because I was actually looking through some material, and you went there and you actually contributed to a lot of match-winning innings over there. So twofold this question is: one is how much exposure in another country actually helps as a cricketer, probably for the youngsters that's watching, and how did it help you with your cricket?
The exposure was probably good, because I was sort of starting to be in, the academy squads and stuff back in Brisbane. There was a few articles about, whoever was overseas and stuff. So I was getting a bit of media about my sort of performances over there, and I was playing Premier cricket. And it's, people say, and it's good to experience a different sort of culture and all that sort of stuff just for your life, not just for your cricket, but the cricket was good as well, where you learn about different wickets and different bowlers, and I think it's a bit different over there. The bowlers are so wily, they don't have to be fast over there, and they can swing the ball. So you learn a lot about that, and that was the plan for a lot of us young fellas. We all went to England and played a few times, and there's still guys doing it now, my age, and even older. So everyone loves doing it, and it's a great part to sort of, if you can play your 6 months here and then play England and work on some stuff. So I did a lot of coaching with some coaches over there, Chris Brown, who's a spin coach, and my mate Luke Caswell. We did a lot of batting stuff together. So it's a good time to learn a lot in those 6 months and try and get better at what you're doing, and then hopefully put that into practice when you come back to Brizzy or wherever you come back to.
I think people can read between the lines. Play summer cricket, play winter cricket, absolutely no studies, and that's what Sabburg's life was. Get it? So before I go on to your BBL stint and so on, but I understand there was also an incident involving Brett Lee that involves you.
Yeah. Funny story, I suppose. It's when I was learning to drive. So I went down to Brizzy for some emerging players training. So Dad would always drive down to Brizzy. This was probably when I was 16, I suppose, when I was on my learners. and he would always drive me down, get out of school a little bit early and go train and then come home. And the one day we got through the traffic really easy, and we were there fairly early, probably an hour or two early. And that's just when the Australian squad, or Australian players, were starting to base in Brisbane. So they had a bit of a camp there, and Brett Lee was waiting outside, and Dad went over and talked to him, and I was really shy when I was younger. And I was like, no, mate, I'm not going to talk to him. I'm too shy, no chance.
Yeah.
So Dad went and he started talking to him. Anyway, I stayed in the car, and he's like, oh, Brett Lee's going to come back. We're going to drop him off at his hotel. I'm like, oh, awesome, how good. And then, so Brett went and got his gear, and he come over, and we had a big van. So we put his gear in the back, and then Dad goes, here you go. What? He goes, they're the keys, you're driving. I said, no, mate. No, I am not driving. He said, yes, you are. You are driving. And anyway, so I'm so freaking nervous driving this big van around, and it's a manual as well. And I could drive it right at the time, but I hadn't had that much experience, and definitely not with an Australian professional cricketer in the back. So he was sitting on the left side behind me, so he could see what I was doing, everything I was doing. I'm sure he was shitting himself. I had the big L plates on the car and everything. Anyway, so I was driving around Breakfast Creek, and he said his apartment blocks were just around the corner. He didn't know quite where. So I come down under the overpass at Brecky Creek, and he's like, yeah, on the left here. So I quickly indicated and just sort of like shit myself, went over, didn't see this car, and it's come flying down, put the brake and skidded. From what we said, Dad said it was speed. He was speeding. So, but I crossed a solid line, so I think I was in the wrong a bit more. And this car come right at the back and just sort of dinged us, and it didn't smash too much, but dinged us in the back quarter, sort of near where Brett was sitting. And yeah, we both pulled in and blah, blah. Brett's like, oh, mate, I've got to go. Do you need my number? So Dad got his number. And anyway, he had to leave. And then the dad and the car driver sort of had a bit of a blue, and he's like, mate, we've got to witness. Brett Lee was in the car. He's like, no, mate, no. Don't believe you. And then Dad tried to get him back down, but yeah. So
do you reckon that's the reason probably you haven't gone to play Australia? He's probably gone back and given the selectors a call. Hey, watch out for this guy.
Just put the red line through me straight away when I'm 16.
Yeah. So, Robs, moving on, in 2013, which was the second BBL, is when you got into the Brisbane Heat squad, and that's the only time that Brisbane Heat have actually won the tournament. Look, you didn't get much of playing time, but you had to do a lot of sub fielding, and you took a lot of catches, and you basically fulfilled the role that was asked of you. So, talk us through that experience, and what was it actually to win a BBL? Because the general public, don't know when a tournament like that, with a lot of games, a lot of pressure, frequent games happening. What is it at the very end once you win a tournament? So how did you guys celebrate, and what do you guys do?
Yeah, just to start off, we the Heat had the 18th position, or the 18th squad member was picked from the grade cricket comp. So they had some, we call them trials, or some games where they mixed all the grade cricketers and the country cricketers together in 4 teams, and we played off for that. And so I got the second and third year, but yeah, the second year. So that was how I got in. It was probably, a few people probably thought that was wrong, but I was happy with that, and a few people had got it the year before me, so they did that for a few years. And then yeah, so obviously I was in the squad, but the initial, probably 3/4, I wasn't in sort of the squad. So the 13 on the day, I wasn't in that. And then I think we had a few injuries or whatnot. And I come into the 12 sort of about halfway, 3/4 through, and started doing some subfielding. So 12th man, whatever you want to call it. But then, yeah, I played the last fixture. Hopesy, I think I was 12th man. And Hopesy went down in the warm-up.
Against Hobart Hurricanes?
Yeah, against Hobart, down in Hobart. So that was my debut down in Hobart. And I was pretty much straight into it because I thought, the captain, I think it might have been Hartley, captain instead of Hopesy. I'm not entirely sure, I think. And he said to me, or with him and Buff that I might be opening the bowling, because they had a couple of left-handers up the top, and Travis Burt was doing really well at the time. He was absolutely slogging them. So we thought, spinning away from him, and they thought they might have been able to get one over out of me just to get one out of the way to obviously save Horrocks for the middle. But so I went out there thinking I was opening the bowling and got to about the 30-metre ring, and they said, no, change of plans. So I was sort of a bit like, okay, thank you. I don't really want to bowl to Travis Burt when he's in this sort of form, striking at 250 or something. I think he was striking at something ridiculous anyway. But yeah, the first game I caught Ponting running in from square leg.
Yeah.
And then, and we won that, and that got us through to the semis. So we come from way down the ladder and we snuck through. So we qualified fourth, and then we actually won the comp. So we played in Melbourne at Etihad against the Renegades, and I dropped Aaron Finch, of all players, to drop Aaron Finch pretty early. I think in the power play I was at deep point, and he's top edged this one, and it had so much spin in it. And I've got this terrible photo where some photographer's got me going like this, but the ball was spinning this way, and I've gone. So it looks like I've got the worst technique, and just because it swung away, I was going like that, shelled it, and I copped so much grief from the crowd, because Etihad is just like, it's on top of you.
Yeah.
Whatever it's called now, Docklands or Marvel Stadium. It's on top of you, so they're right near you.
So you had the Dhoni technique going on. It works for Dhoni.
Yeah, the Dhoni, the clap catch. So I dropped him, but luckily I think 4 or 5 hours later I caught him, because I thought, I've dropped it. I've dropped our chances now. So, but I caught him a few hours later. But that night, I think we dropped 4 or 5 catches. I know Pommersback dropped 1 or 2, and McDermott dropped 1 or 2. We were terrible. I don't know how we won it, but luckily Pommers was in unbelievable form. He got 116 or something. He was reverse sweeping Murali for 4 and just taking the piss. And then we went to Perth for the final, come over here and we won that. Pretty good game all round from all of us, and then had a good celebration. So there wasn't too much. I think we flew back the day after all that, so I don't ever remember being too crazy. But I do remember Kemar Roach having a glow-in-the-dark bottle of Verve, whatever it's called, the champagne.
Yep.
So him and Buff were just going nuts with all that, and glow-in-the-dark. We were all in our little corner in the dark. So that was one memory I've got. Yeah.
But talking about Kemar Roach, did you get to face Kemar Roach in the nets? Yeah,
I faced him in the nets. Fast, but he had a good action, so you could see it. So that was probably the better thing. And he wasn't too mean, so I don't think he ever bumped us, on purpose. So he was all right to face. But if he didn't have such a good action, it would have been much worse, because he was pretty quick. Yeah.
What about so Daniel Vittori was in the same squad as well. So did you get to interact with him much? Did he help you with your bowling?
Well, he was out overseas in the second year, the BBL 3 for me. We had him and Craig Keyswetter the second year. So, from memory, I don't remember. Like I said, I was pretty shy, and I sort of hated asking stuff, because I was like, I sort of saw it as a bit of a weakness, which is probably shit on my behalf. But I sort of got, brought up with cricket early, was just, get in there and find a way and
do it.
Play hard. Sort of not show weakness. So I don't think I probably asked him the odd question, and definitely should have asked him a lot more of Vittori. But that was the second year. But
then from there you went to the Champions League, where back in the day was brilliant. You had the top T20 franchises all around the world coming together, and I wish we had that today. And you faced Chennai Super Kings, Trinidad and Tobago, and Cape Cobras. So let's leave the Cape Cobras game aside. Let's talk about your first 2 games with Trinidad, Tobago, and Chennai Super Kings. What are the memories that stand out for you in those 2 games?
Trinidad game, I didn't do very well, mate. That's for sure. From being a club cricketer, I hadn't played any first class or list A stuff. It was just, beyond me, really. It was just something else. I remember the first game played Trinidad and they had Sunil Narayan. I think I come in at 4 or 5 for 50 or something. And I just had no idea. The first ball he bowled me, I went to play as an off spinner just to have a look at one. And it was a deucer. I've never seen a deucer in my life. Went through the gate and it nearly bowled me. I wish it would have bowled me because I had no idea, mate. But yeah, just inexperience, like just from playing not even a handful of games. I played 3 games and I hadn't batted or bowled that year. So going from 3 games and not batting to then, I think my first bat was against Sunil Narayan and Trinidad and Tobago. I was just, mate,
yeah,
good luck. But that's where I was, and just that inexperience. If I was there now, I'd probably still be under the pump, but I'd definitely have a few more guns in my sort of arsenal to take them on. So just being 22, 23, I just was a deer in the headlights. So.
And what about Chennai Super Kings? Like obviously Dhoni's keeping, like superstars around you. Yeah.
I actually had a look at the scorecard from that today and the team he played, and it was just ridiculous. It was Hussey, Dhoni, Dwayne Bravo, Ashwin, Raina,
Jadeja.
It was just ridiculous. And you're probably going to ask me something later about it, but Ashwin, I had a look today and it was not good. Not good playing Ashwin. That game, that was my worst game, probably. Leave it at that. I don't want to get that.
Okay. Okay, so now 2 games down in the Champions League and you're like, oh my God, like what have I got myself into? But then you come in and you're facing the Cobras, Cape Cobras, and from South Africa. And you come into bat and you're like, I need to prove myself here. So yeah, talk us through that innings.
Yeah, so India is a very tough country to go to without cricket. So we had 4 weeks over there, and this was probably the time when I started struggling a bit with my cricket and probably life in general. I went over there and I didn't have the relationships with a few of the players that other people had that were in the system. But anyway, that's another story. But the Cobras game, I sort of thought to myself, I was like, I've got to do something because I've been pretty shit in the first 2 games. The second game was very poor. I just had to show sort of something to say why I was there, and it was just one of those days where I was just quiet and in my own zone to try and just be like, right, don't worry about any other stuff. Just try and do something. And I remember one of our coaches, it was Gavin Fitness, saying like, you can do something and you can be an overnight, sort of household name. And I never thought about being that, or don't think I am that. But just saying, he was saying things like that just to try and make us believe that we can do something. And I think that sort of helped a bit. Went out, and luckily I wasn't facing anyone too hard. I think I faced David Weiser, the South African tall quick.
Yeah.
And he wasn't that quick, a bit older. And the first 2 balls, I think he sprayed onto my legs, and I just sort of flicked him with short fine up and got him away for 4. So I was like, oh, happy days. So I think I was 8 off 2, 9 off 3 or something like that, end of the over. I was like, okay, this is all right. And we needed 10s or 12s or something for the last 3 or 4 or 5 overs. And I was like, oh, there's obviously nothing to lose. I'm just give it a crack. And I think Mork will come on at next over, and luckily enough got one away. It wasn't the biggest 6 you'll see. It barely registered. I think it come up at 69 or 70 metres and hit the fence. But I'll still claim it. I'll say it went 110. But got him for a 6. And nearly got us home in the end. I got run out. I didn't want the second. Come back running for 2, and Vandermeer should have known. He's left-hander, and he's got absolute rocket that he put one straight over the top to the keeper, and I was out by a yard or 2. And I was still thinking about that game now, mate, and I was devastated. I still have a bit of a chip on my shoulder that I said to myself I was going to get us home that game, and I just should have just said no and went back, and because I was probably the guy to win that game for us, and we hadn't won a game prior to that. So
no, but like you said, like, you know, mental state is also really important. Like you said, you were starting to struggle with something, and I was going to get to that with my next piece, which is, so you were in the Brisbane Heat, you know, set up the next year, which was in 2014. But yeah, I understand that, you know, you mentally struggled and physically struggled at that point, and to the point where you actually thought of giving up the game and maybe going and playing baseball. Like, just you didn't want to be there. So I mean, it's really important for me to ask you this question, because I'm sure there's a lot of professional athletes that go through this, and kids growing up as well. You know, they pursue to play higher level cricket, but it's just important for them to understand, you know, what sometimes professional athletes do go through, and maybe the advice that you can give. You know, firstly talking through your journey, but what kind of advice can you give them?
Yeah, maybe it was a very tough time, and I kept a lot to myself, and I didn't sort of explain, or I didn't have people asking me questions about what was going on. So I'm not going to obviously point any fingers at people, you know, from the Heat or Queensland Cricket or whoever for not asking me. You know, I probably should have went to them. But if it was now, I'm sure the resources that everyone has now, and the way we talk about it now to the community and just people in general, not just cricket, it's quite amazing what people are doing now. You know, they're coming out saying they're struggling and taking time off cricket and time off jobs or whatever they might be doing. Maybe if we had that support and that sort of trust that we could talk up a bit more back then, it might have been a different story. But yeah, I struggled a lot, mate. I was going to training as late as I could, just because I didn't have anyone to talk to. And I'll be completely honest here. I won't piss around because there's no point. I'm happy to be honest. I went to training a few times and went, you know, generally fairly early to just be settled. And I remember one day I went to have a, you know, sit down while we waited, and a few of the other guys were eating breakfast and having a coffee. And I sort of come in, and I didn't have, no one said, "Hey mate, come over and sit with us." I just sort of come in. I was like, you know, I just sort of sat down by myself, and it just, mate, that shit gets you, because I don't know how strong a person you have to be to sort of be like, oh, whatever, doesn't matter. I'm just here to play cricket. I'm just here to be the best cricketer around. But because I wasn't in the system, I was there to sort of, you know, get to know people and try and create relationships, because I wasn't sort of playing as well. I was on the sidelines, and, you know, it's a pretty bad time to look back on now, because, you know, I get to sessions as late as I could, and then one day I was late and got in a bit of grief with the coaching staff, and then another session I was late. I went to the wrong place and then got dropped. So, and I didn't get asked once what was going on. And I've probably got a bit of resent about that, because it would have been nice just for someone to come up and, you know, ask me what's going on. You know, I was struggling a bit at home with personal stuff, and cricket wasn't going great, and, you know, being around that and trying to come back and play club cricket, and then trying to dominate that, putting a huge amount of pressure on myself. It was not good, mate. And then obviously, like you said, I was thinking about quitting, and I did. And I don't know how close I come to quitting, but I think I vaguely remember talking to Dad about baseball and saying, "Oh, what do you think?" You know, I think the Brisbane Bandits and that sort of stuff was starting up, and Dad played baseball. I played baseball in school. Can switch hit. You know, there's a few ticks there. So I contemplated going and playing club baseball, or, you know, trying out for whoever. But didn't end up going that way. So, but you came back, and, you know, you found a way. So you went and you shifted clubs, and you went to play with the Western Suburbs, and at the Western Suburbs you started to meet or play with, you know, people that are close to you, and I understand that's where you found your love back for the game. Yeah, so with Toombul, like, I love Toombul, mate. That was my first club, and we had the best times on and off the field, won premierships and all that. And A few people were mad about me leaving or against me leaving, but I had my own sort of things of why I wanted to leave, and that's one reason. I just wanted to try and enjoy my cricket, but have a bit of a base around me to a base of people. So Wests had Peter Steindl, who I spoke to my uncle Dick Tasler, who was a coach and selector at Wests, and I said, "Oh, what's this guy about Peter Steindl?" I said, "Mate, he's unreal." Long story short, he's a level 4 coach for England. He's played for Scotland. Sorry, in Scotland, he's played for Scotland, coached Scotland, and has just been a huge impact in my cricket career the last 5 years now. But I still talk to him in cricket season now. But he was just, he was our coach, but he was a mate. I'd have a lot of days where I'd go to training early and he would throw me balls, or we'd go for sushi prior if we weren't feeling, if we were a bit cooked from work. So he was just a mate, and that was someone I could bounce stuff off. And, I had 2-3 other cousins I'd play with as well, which was great. And, West, we had a good couple of years there. We had a guy from New South Wales come up, Matt Foster. So we had a pretty good team there, and we made the semi the first year and then won the second year, won the full flag. So, yeah, mate, I started really enjoying the cricket again then, because it was just, let's go have some fun with our mates. Pat Collins, our captain, just, mate, unbelievable how he brings people together, brings men together, not just on the cricket field, but in general. A great guy, a great mate of mine.
But it's funny that you say these things, Strobs, because 7 weeks ago, when I had the privilege of interviewing Dav Watmore, Sri Lankan coach during the 1996 World Cup, and he said he should have played more Test cricket for Australia. He only played 7, and he said he wasn't that talent. He was talented, but he just needed that that person to on whose shoulders he could sort of lie on and he could rely on. So it looks like you're that kind of an individual as well, and a lot of cricketers would want the same as well. So
yeah. I'm sure. I feel like I'm a fairly tough cricketer and shrug a lot of stuff off and don't worry about too much stuff now. After all the stuff I've been through, but I'm sure everyone at one point will need someone to not lean on, but just bounce stuff off and try and have a bit deeper conversation. I know the last 4 or 5 years after my tough times, I've had much more deeper conversations with the likes of Pete Steindl and Pat Collins, a good mate, who I owe a lot to. And it's been good playing for West, so I owe a lot to them.
And when I saw you move to WA, I actually thought it was probably going to be for a personal reason, Strobs. But then it looks like you moved to WA to take your cricket forward. So, yeah, talk us through that. Yeah,
well, it's actually a bit of both. The latter probably went with the former, with the personal relationships I had. My ex, we were sort of struggling a bit, or I was struggling with it, and just didn't seem right. And I, sort of had all this stuff going, long story short, and cricket, I was doing fairly well with cricket and just sort of not getting anywhere. I felt like I could be or should be playing second 11 cricket. I didn't want to go and say I should be playing for Queensland, because I wasn't going ballistic. I was scoring good runs and averaging all right. I wasn't, smashing on the door. So the move to WA was brought about just completely going out there and trying something. So Steve Atkinson, a mate of mine who is a player agent, and he played for uni in WA years and years ago. He has good ties over here and with a few of the Perth Scorchers players and WA players, so he knows a lot about this. He lived here for years and years, and he said, you don't know what will happen. So he said, if you want to try it, I'm not telling you to try it to go, but he said you never know what will happen. He said he met his wife over in Perth, and now I've met a lovely lady, Emma, which I love her to bits. So wouldn't change it for the world, man. It's been the best thing I've ever done.
Awesome. And
cricket's just been a bonus now. So.
It just goes to show that when you're in a happy space, you actually do well, which is where I'm getting to my next question, which is, so you formed good friendships with the like of Ashton Agar, Dave Moody, and you currently live, or you used to live with Wilbur Sisto?
Used to live, yeah.
Yeah, you used to
Before he
live.
moved to Adelaide, yeah.
Yeah, so you used to live with Wilbur Sisto. You've been a consistent performer in the Western Australian circuit. And when I say consistent, you're in the top 6 in the last couple of years. You've been getting the call-ups for the Western Australia second 11. So sounds like things are getting back on track, and you're actually in a good space.
Yeah, I think the cricket has taken care of itself with my along with my personal stuff. So after meeting Emma, it's just been so good for me. I met her late last cricket season, and I did fairly well with cricket last year, but this year's just been taken to another level. So that's one thing I've said. If I come over here, and Steve said it as well, if you come over here, you really got to give it a red hot crack. So it's not just sort of knocking on the door. I'm not going to spruik myself, but got 1,000 runs this year and 200 runs clear of anyone else. So I've really tried to smash as hard as I could on that door to try and get back in. And yeah, that second 11 stuff, I played the last game, and I played the last 4-day game, and then played the T20 stuff the last 2 years and did well on that this year. Got 100 in that. So I've sort of been able to show my skills, which has been nice, and got a bit of reward. So it's been good. And if that's where it finishes, if it's second 11 cricket, I'll be pretty happy with that from where I was, seeing that I couldn't get a game in a second 11 team. So, I'm 30 years old now, so I know it's obviously time's not in my favour, but that's why I'm giving it all I can.
Hopefully you get a lot of runs, and next time I chat with you, Strobs, I'll be wearing a Perth Scorchers t-shirt. So,
yeah.
Okay. Sorry?
That would be nice, mate.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, cool. Let's have some fun now with some rapid fire questions, because you've obviously played a lot of cricket. So, what's the best ground you've played at?
Best ground. I think it's hard to choose because every sort of ground is different. I know this is rapid fire, but it's I played in India and they're just insane, mate. Like Mohali, the one ground against Cobras. Obviously, you have fairly decent memories there, so just unbelievable over there. But
I'll take that, India. That's a good answer.
Yeah. Just for the experience, like the whole thing, probably Mohali there. Punjab Stadium, I think it's called. But the WAC is lovely. We played a few grade cricket games there now with finals and stuff, and but even the Gabba, like they're all different. They're all awesome. So
awesome. And the toughest bowler you've ever faced? Sitting around.
Yeah. So I went, like I said before, when we played Chennai. I looked back at the game, just having a look through today, and I was doing a few things for another person with some grade cricketer teams I've come up with. And I had a look at that game, and I faced 9 balls off Ashwin, and I didn't get 1 run. So he played, I think, the 12th over, he bowled a maiden against me, and then the over before. So 9 off 9, I'm pretty happy with that.
Okay. Was there...
Pretty good bowler.
Yeah, for sure. With that Ashes catch that you took, was there any doubt in your head at all? I know it was less time, but any doubt at all?
No, it wasn't. I would like to see if there was an alternate universe. If I didn't field those 2 or 3 balls prior, I had a bit of confidence.
Okay.
And yeah, I don't ever remember being extremely nervous anyway. I think I might have a little bit, but I don't think so.
Your favorite cuisine?
Italian.
USQ, Toombul, Western Suburbs, the club with the best memories. Oh, watch it, Strobs.
No, as much as I love the other clubs, I think everyone that played for Toombul will know the times we had at Toombul. I had 8 years there, or 7.5, 8 years. Mate, unbelievable. We had a great team, but we had, the best club. We had 66 guys or whatever it was. They were all mates, and it's, people might say, oh, that's bullshit, but we literally had first graders having beers with 6th graders on, Saturday nights after a game, and we weren't just having a drink with them just to, because we have to, but we were there because we wanted to, and it was, mate, unbelievable. We had some good times.
Your cricketing idol growing up?
Andy Bickle, obvious reasons, and Michael Bevan. So being a left-hander, middle order bat, and obviously he's a guy. So
favorite holiday destination?
Mate, I've got a soft spot for the Gold Coast. It's a weird one because as a family, we never went on many holidays. If we did, it was to like relatives' place, and we'd always go down to the Gold Coast or the sunny coast. And that's probably the extent of our holidays. But just the Gold Coast, it just, it's like they say Hollywood on the coast. Like it's just the big time down there. I love sort of the feel of the Gold Coast and the beach and the nightlife and everything.
Yeah. So I tend to take that as you might have had some really good schooly weeks over there. Eh?
I didn't do schoolies down there, but I had a few little trips down there with mates as well. But yeah, great.
And so the next one is you've had a lot of coaches like you've mentioned, so Jeff Thomas, Gavin Fitness, and now with Peter Steindl. Who's the one that's made the biggest impact on your cricket?
I think probably Gavin Fitness, mate. And I probably owe him a lot for what I've done in cricket. He knew how to deal with me, and he knows how to deal with a lot of other people. So, when we were sort of younger, it was me, Linny, Preston White. We're all the same age, and we're three different people, and he knew how to sort of push us in the right direction. So he knew he could give me a bit of a spray, or Linny a bit of a spray, and we'd pucker up in the nets or something. We'd switch on a bit more. But yeah, I'm sure he's done a lot more than I sort of know for my career, and I owe him a lot for what I know. But saying that, the last few years, Peter Steindl has been as well, and he's not just a coach; he's a great mate of mine. Still make contact with him, and he's in Scotland now and coming back and forward. But even Glenn Batachotto, I've played with him ever since I started at Toombul, and we talk each week now. And this year, he's made me realise some stuff in my game, and I've put it into action, and I've just gone, oh my God, this is ridiculous. So he's just still giving me tips and comparing each other's scores on a Sunday or Monday when we ring each other. So I know if he rings me, I know he did well, and if I ring him, I know he knows I did well. It's pretty funny.
Who's the next superstar from the Aussie youngsters today going around?
I reckon the next big one is probably this Josh Philippi. Yep. So he's obviously killed it at Sydney Sixers this year. We haven't seen the best of him in the longer formats, but I'm sure, he's only, I don't know how old he's, at 21 or something. And he's already killing it. So he's something else.
So Josh Philippi played indoor cricket. Have you ever played indoor cricket?
I have, yeah. Bit of a shout out to my team back home, the Pitchers, back in the Caboolture comp at Caboolture Indoor Sports. Mate, I played there with those boys when I was in Brisbane the last 2 seasons, I think, when I was in Brisbane. Love indoor cricket and received at the back a lot of the time, or I was actually a wicket keeper as well, so I'd swap when the guy had to bowl. So I'd wicket keep, and mate, I love it. Absolutely love it.
So we look forward to your indoor career post this whole thing's done, yes? So that's good.
I don't think my knees will take it, man.
The one person you would ask to bat for your life?
Probably, if I had to say someone, it'd be someone I'd play with, because there's no point for, I reckon, saying Sachin or someone, because obviously, but I think Luke Pommer's back in his prime in that BBL2, when no one, like, he was just taking the absolute piss, and he was reverse sweeping Murali. Like, that tournament, you'd probably put your money on him to score 100 every time, and he nearly did. I think he scored 200.
What's your favourite shot?
Favourite shot? I think the drop kick over forward square. I don't know if the proper name for it. Not really a flick, but just a bit of a pick up. Matty Hayden sort of style, just pick it up off your legs. Gilchrist. Did a few of them this year, and sit there and watch them sail over the fence. It's nice, mate.
And what's your most treasured cricketing item?
Cricketing item, probably the baggy green Australia A cap from the catch. Yeah, and I got my shirt signed, so signed by the Aussie team and the cap, I'd say. Yeah. So not bad.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Look, Strobs, this has been super fun. And look, someone who's known you and played with you, just looking through your journey, and looking at your maturity as well, across, from when you were that kid at Toowoomba to where you are now, it looks like you're very assured of where your game is at. And I really wish you all the very best. And there's a lot of well wishes for you as well. And thank you for being so vulnerable in this conversation as well. Look, lot of things that people can take. And it might just open up the fact that people will speak up, about how they're feeling and knowing what you've been through. So all the very best, Probs. And hopefully we'll get to see you in higher honors in the future.
Yeah, thanks, mate. It's nice that you say that. And I hope that obviously everyone saw those vulnerable points in this video. But if you're ever having trouble, I'm always here to have a chat. Obviously, people out there who know me, been through a bit of stuff, and it's good to sort of, you got to get it off your chest. So I've had a fair few people help me in my time, and I can't thank those people enough for letting me spill the beans on them and get that stuff out there. So if you're ever feeling the need to, if you're feeling down or whatever, be sure to speak up and let people know, because they don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks mate, appreciate it a lot.
Thanks, Strobs. All right, folks, we've got Willie Brink coming in at 2 p.m. South Africa time, 8 p.m. Singapore time. So we'll catch you then. And he's a first-class representative of the Free State, and he's also played the Opens and Masters for South Africa. So see you then. Cheers, guys. Until next time.